for the world, for others, not about the superpowers anymore. And today we have one more superhero, like all of us, with us, who I found on internet, Dr. Faraz Harsini. I found his content. Ignore week 48. That's editing mistake. But I found his content online few weeks ago, and it immediately caught my attention because when I imagine a veganer speaking on a street with what we learned from in 5 weeks program, I exactly feel like that's how Dr. Faraz is. I immediately saw him and like, did he attend veganer? No. How did he do? And then it is making sense because anybody who just puts a little combination of heart and mind, what happens is in our activism, we are using one of them mostly, either too much mind or too much heart, right? But when you combine these two forces, you become a veganer. And I think Dr. Faraz has done beautifully. So without delaying anymore, I would like to invite Dr. Faraz. I'll stop sharing and I would first let him speak about his journey, introduce his veganer journey in his own way. And then maybe we can all ask questions to him. I will also ask questions to him. So if you get any question, you raise your hand, you put in the chat. But most importantly, be a good listener today. That's the main role you all have. Dr. Faraz, over to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the kind intro and welcome everyone. Thanks for making the time and being here today. And good morning. I think it's morning in India. It's 10:30 p.m. here. I'm in Austin, Texas. Yeah, so I tell you a little about myself. I'm a biomedical and food system scientist. My professional background is biomedical research. I did cancer research, and then I work in biopharma to develop drugs for pandemics, zoonotic diseases, cancer, and other things. For the past 14 years, I've been vegan. So as I was working in biopharma, I always ask myself, is this really all there is to life? Just making money and just working in some company that, doesn't even address the root cause of a lot of these diseases, such as zoonotic diseases that come from animal consumption. At the same time, another thing that really bothered me was the fact that the biggest form of oppression and injustice in the world is animal oppression by far. Just because of the sheer number of animals that we are killing. Like I always say, statistically, logically, rationally, ethically, mathematically, however you look at it, it's the biggest form of oppression. And not only that, but also it's the most neglected one. So any other form of oppression, first of all, if the victim is humans, then we have voices, right? So people can, at the end of the day, we can express our emotions, we can express our feelings. Animals can't. They're trapped in cages. They're, in some countries, they're not even considered as sentient. Even in the US, it would surprise you that birds, poultry, birds used for food, they're not even considered as like animals. They can be thrown away like just objects. They have no legal protection. And that's the US. So you can just imagine how it is in the rest of the world. So when I say this is the most neglected form of oppression, I really mean it. And so I quit my job. Now I work in a nonprofit called Good Food Institute that promotes alternative proteins. So that's either cultivated meat or plant-based foods. I'm a scientist there. So my job is to understand how to scale up these alternative proteins. But I also started my own nonprofit called Allied Scholars for Animal Protection. And the acronym for it is ASAP. Needless to say, because I think that we need animal liberation ASAP. So yeah, what I do is we basically promote plant-based diets and veganism in college campuses because I think that it's a huge opportunity to focus our activism in universities because people are younger, they're open-minded. You can saturate college campuses. You generally have thousands of students in a few blocks. So you can, like, when you do activism, you can reach out to thousands of people over and over and over. And then these people are going to become future doctors and lawyers and policymakers and parents and all that. It's a lot harder when you reach out to people when they're older, when they already have a job, when they already have a family, all that stuff. So that's why I focus all of my time, most of it at least, in universities. I also tell you about my vegan journey. So I'm originally from Iran. I grew up like many other people, just loving animals, or at least saying so or thinking so. I was against hunting. I was against animal experimentation. But I ate animals. Actually, the truth is I didn't like meat, but my, the family and society, they were like, you need to eat the meat, eat the meat, eat the meat. And they kept telling me that until, I started eating meat. And then by the time I was a teenager, I was so addicted to it that it was really hard to give it up. And I see that happening all the time. I feel like kids are really innocent. They really like animals. They don't want animals to die. But we get conditioned, and then we develop this cognitive dissonance that becomes a lot harder to get rid of when we are older. But when I finally left Iran, I was trying to encourage Iranians not to buy goldfish. Iranians have a tradition for Persian New Year. We buy goldfish at our Persian New Year tradition, just alive, not to eat them, but they're just like in water tanks. They're supposed to be, ironically, they're supposed to be a symbol of like freedom and life and whatever. But millions of fish die throughout the process. People don't know what to do with them. They release them to rivers. They're not really, they don't belong to rivers. And so millions of fish die. And I was actually trying to get Iranians to stop doing that. And when I left Iran, one of my friends who was a graphic designer, and I was asking her to help me with a poster to encourage Iranians not to buy goldfish. When I asked her, she actually refused. And Iranians are very nice. In our culture, we never say no. Even to date, it's really hard for me to say no to people. But my friend was just like outright just said no. She said, you literally eat fish, and here you are trying to save fish. And she just left it at that. That's the only thing that she said. Now, the good thing is, I felt uncomfortable. I didn't like my friend for 3 months. And after a couple of months, I started becoming really uncomfortable with that thought. And eventually I became vegetarian. And I remember telling myself there are people who are so extreme, they don't even eat eggs and dairy, just because I had no idea what happens. And when I learned about that, then I became vegan. So the good thing is my friend had the courage to do the right thing, to speak up. It's safe to say that that one sentence that she said, her refusing to help me, probably changed the trajectory of my life forever. And probably everything that I do today goes back to that conversation. And so that really shows, like, what would I be doing with my life if she didn't say that, really? And I'm not the only one. I ask people, what made you go vegan? And it's always an accident. It's always an accident. It's always some random YouTube video. It's always some random roommate or a friend or social media post, but it hasn't been intentional. You don't learn about these things. You learn some math, you learn some science in school, but you never learn about any of these. And then I just don't think that our movement should rely on chances and this accidental incidents for us to learn about this. And I ask people, like, most people become vegan because they accidentally came across something. And we get to be that accident for so many other people. And the good thing about veganism is that the reason I have hope, despite the fact that it's a very sad world and there is a lot of suffering, the reason I have hope is I think that vegans, when they speak up, we have the power to have that snowball effect. That's what I'm after. So when you become vegan, it's really just the start. It's the bare minimum that we can do. It's not the goal. It's really just to start. So you're now in square zero, and after that you start getting active. Being vegan is great. You no longer pay for animal exploitation, but that's really what it is. It just means that you don't promote it. But it also doesn't mean that you're non-violent. I'm not Jain, but I'm giving a talk at Jaina, which is the biggest gathering of Jains in the US. About like 4,000 to 5,000 Jains come together. It's actually in next week. And so I'm talking about ahimsa and non-violence. And I actually had ChatGPT to make a graph for me, like a picture for me. So it's like there are two blocks. One of them is someone who's wearing a t-shirt that says ahimsa, and then in the back, someone is slaughtering animals, and this guy is wearing like, ahimsa, doing this, but he's like closing his eyes. So he's trying to not care about what's happening in the back. And the question is that truly nonviolence? If we see violence and we don't do anything about it, is it truly being nonviolent? And I don't think so. I think a true nonviolence is that when you see violence, you actually do something about it, so that's true ahimsa. It's not being inactive and passive, it's being proactive and reactive and running to rescue. And that's what we would do otherwise, right? If somebody was beating a dog in front of us, we would not hesitate. We would not be worried about other people judging us, whether it's the right thing to do or not. It's like immediate. It's almost like muscle memory. But when it comes to activism, a lot of times vegans feel that, they feel ashamed. They feel that they feel scared. They feel like they don't want to be that guy. They don't want to be the person who's like judgmental. You hear vegans saying things like, I don't want to be judgmental. I don't want to, I don't want to tell you what to do. But we would absolutely do someone else what to do. If someone was beating a dog in front of us, we would absolutely go there and just say, hey man, what are you doing? Why are you beating this dog? We would absolutely say something, right? But I think that probably the biggest power of animal industry and carnism, the mentality that animals are here for us to be exploited, I think their biggest win is making vegans lose their power and not feel empowered to speak up, because now our biggest enemy has become ourselves, because what's stopping us is not really the meat industry, it's just vegans themselves, right? And so on the bright side, I feel like every time you take action, then you start a snowball effect. So I was saying that veganism is really just the bare minimum, and everything starts from there, meaning that it doesn't matter in what shape or form, in what method, I don't really care. It's just like doing something about it. And when we do something about it, people around us start to change. A good example of that is Gandhi. A good example of that in the US is MLK, Martin Luther King, and Rosa Parks, who's the lady who didn't give up her seat in civil rights movement. And it's really interesting when you think about like Rosa Parks, like she didn't know that that simple act of not giving up her seat would lead to some giant revolution, which, helped a lot with civil rights. Obviously, it wasn't the only factor, but that really just like set fire into it. It was like a chain reaction. But she probably didn't think that just not giving up my seat is gonna have that drastic of an impact. Similarly, somebody like Gandhi, I think it's actually really interesting. Gandhi was really shy. If you read his biography, he was a shy lawyer in England. He had no idea what to do. And from there, his mentor says, you need to travel, and he travels. He then just becomes interested in what he did. But it's really interesting that someone who was really shy ended up becoming probably the face of nonviolence resistance and leading an entire, probably not even a nation, probably leading the world. Like years after he died, he's still a symbol of resistance and leadership. And it just says that Gandhi also could sit down there and just say, hey, I don't want to push myself out of my comfort zone. I'm shy, I'm introvert. I don't want to challenge myself and just not do anything. But the simple fact that he just decided to do something made him Gandhi. And then when I think about like these people, I don't think that there are magical superhumans with superpowers. They're just ordinary people like us with clarity of mind. They made mistakes, they learned from their mistakes, they adjusted their strategy. They didn't believe in what they believed in terms of like methods and strategy 10 years later when they started something. So they learned things, they thought about it, they had circles. MLK had always people around him. They were like talking about strategy. So it's not like they had all the knowledge in the world. It's not like they had the IQ 140. They just saw injustice, and they had the clarity of mind that in the face of injustice, silence is not an action. Silence is not an option. So that brings me to really, when you understand that veganism is a moral urgency, as it says in the sign in the back, when you understand the scale, when you understand by understanding, like, we're all vegan, we know that the scale is really bad, but I say understand what I mean is like you feel it, you live your life on like feeling that sense of urgency, that if someone was beating a dog in front of you, you would just imagine how emotional you would get if somebody was beating a dog or a kid in front of you. It will ruin your day, right? It's just like, now multiple that by 3 trillion per year, multiple that by, I don't know, 50,000 per second. So that's the number of animals we kill per second, right? So it only makes sense that our reaction to it, I'm not saying like emotional reaction, but in terms of seriousness, in terms of urgency, it has to be 50,000 times more than if somebody was just beating a dog in front of us. And once you connect with that, then the answer is, what are we doing with our lives? And I think one of the most satisfying things that we can do with our lives is to help the voiceless, help animals who are the most defenseless, the most oppressed. And it's really, truly a joy to work in this movement. And it really becomes from something that you do on the side to turning you to an activist. And we were sort of talking about what it means to be an activist. And to me, an activist is not someone who necessarily goes to a street and holds a sign or holds a TV. It just means that it's active here, right? So you live every second. It might resonate with a lot of you. You go take a shower and you're asking yourself, why are people not seeing what I'm seeing? You go on a walk to calm down and you're still seeing animal suffering. You're thinking about animals. It's like active here every second of your life. And that's really what it means to be an activist. And how it manifests can vary from a person to a person, depending on your skills, depending on your situation. But what it means is that you use your voice. If you go to a grocery store, you see something, you just say something. It just means that we push ourselves out of our comfort zone, that sometimes speaking up is hard. I've been in situations where, my voice was shaking, my hands were shaking, but I just knew that I had to say something. And there is not a single time in my life that I decided to say something despite the fact that I felt super uncomfortable, that afterwards I regretted it. The only time I regretted it was if I didn't have the courage to speak up. And then I started blaming myself. I was like, come on, just, that was not good. That's the only time I blame myself. But really, as they say, life starts out of our comfort zone. So it's like outside of our comfort zone or outside of fears. So when we give up our fears and speak up, I think that's really what matters. And in the ways that it can manifest, it could be something as simple as talking to friends, posting something on social media. I see a lot of vegans, believe it or not, their whole social media is posting pictures of their partners. And I mean, that's fine, do that, whatever. But at some point, come on, at what point does like animal rights come into play, right? And then you have all these, actually, if your Instagram or Facebook, it's primarily made of like non-vegans, that actually makes you a better case to speak up, because now you can like share your story. And it doesn't have to be confrontational necessarily. If you're new to it, you can always share your story. One technique I learned is that you can say, instead of saying like, if you eat meat, you're an animal abuser, you can say anything about yourself and people don't get offended. Like if I say, you're very selfish for eating meat, if I say, when I look back, I think like I was really selfish because I put a moment of my pleasure over an animal's life, and no one is gonna get upset. I commonly say that, and this is true, that when my friend told me that I should stop eating meat, I really liked sausage and bratwurst in Germany. I just moved to Germany, and I remember telling myself, sorry, animals, it's like 1 second of you dying. I just love meat so much. And I just tell people, I was like, I think the lowest point of my life is that one day this is what I said. And I think this is something that a lot of people think. They think that it's really hard to go vegan because they like the taste of meat. So basically, I'm trying to say it is the lowest point in you and me and in humanity where we do this, but people don't get offended when you make it about yourself. So going back to that social media, you can always share your story, tell people why you are vegan. If you make a lot of money, or even if not, you can always donate. I say even if not, because a lot of people spend a lot of money they don't have on things that they don't need. I'm not religiously against drinking, but I find drinking, for instance, something that it hurts your body and it pollutes your mind. I'm not religiously against it if somebody drinks, I don't know, once a month, but I still think about it. We make all these little choices that add up, right? So I just spent so much money on alcohol, and then you add it up. In the US, it's somewhere around like $500 per person per year. So I did the calculations that if every vegan just in the US spent the money they spend on alcohol and donated it to animal rights, we would have orders of magnitude more money than the global money that we have for animal rights, which is about $300 million, which is nothing. If just Americans spend the money they spend, vegan Americans or American vegans, to spend the money on alcohol, on animal rights, we would increase the global budget for animal rights by over 10 times. So think about that. So it adds up. We buy maybe jewelry. Did we really need that? So all these little things sort of add up. So when I say like donating, it doesn't mean you don't have to be rich to be able to donate. A lot of times, you can always find something that you don't really have to do and you can donate it. So donation is one. Speaking up, doing street activism is for sure extremely important. And another impactful thing is careers. So thinking about, because careers are important, right? That's something that you do for 8 hours a day. And just imagine if that career was actually aligned with animal rights. And you can still make money from it and just live. You can work on alternative proteins. You can work in a plant-based company. You can start a business. You guys are in India, really having a business that promotes alternatives to plant-based milk that is cheaper. I think that should make transition from dairy a lot easier, right? So alternatives to animal testing, you can have a business, no matter what. You can find your skill and potentially turn it to your career. And in general, I tell people, like, if your job makes you miserable, then just quit. Life is too short to do random bullshit that we don't care about just to make money, to buy things we don't need, right? So it's like we have one life and we have 20, 30, 40, 50 years left. It's not a lot of time. And really, truly, the best thing that we can do, the most satisfying thing that we can do is to really dedicate our lives to, a cause that really matters. And I don't think that there is anything that comes close to animal rights. So maybe I just stop there. That was a long intro.
Wow. It just gave me an idea of this exercise, which I want to do with everybody in the chat. Please introduce your name, if you have been vegan for how many years or a pro-vegan, and what is your favorite form of activism? As Dr. Faraz talked about, that activism is active in the mind. What makes you active in the mind? If you all can share. Meanwhile, you were typing. I wanted to share with Dr. Faraz. Dr. Faraz, you have never been to Veganist Academy before, and I introduced a little about it in our call just a few days back. But all of us can connect so well to it, because you shared like summary of the whole academy here. And especially we have this 5 weeks and we have 15 sessions, and in that there is a lot of simple tasks for people to do and explore the activism. And the key task, which is actually connected to the certificate, is to make a video about your story of how you became pre to pro to vegan and share that on social media. That's the key task of the whole program, because that is the best story you can tell to the world. You don't have to think, you don't have to be creative, you don't have to make like, how do I make content? Just take the camera, tell how did I become. And also telling there, when you said that you talk about you, not them. And we share this, that in these stories, please talk about your weaknesses as authentic as possible, because that is what will resonate with people. Because people think, sometimes we project that, oh, I became vegan overnight, it was so easy for me. But we know in our heart, we all have had our own mental or taste bud struggles. Put them out in the story. Tell them that I love that sausage, or I love that curd, I love that thing, and it was so difficult. Because that is the part where everybody will understand. So my struggle is also like accepted. So that means I can struggle and transition. Wow. Because many people think, no, it is like magic wand, right? So what you shared is so resonating here. And as you can see in the chat, some beautiful responses are coming. Anil sir is here, who has been vegan for 9 years, and street outreach is his best form. Pinky is vegan for 5 years, and her activism form is WhatsApp status and Instagram status. She keep putting something from content like your channel and other channels, and holding conversation on the simplicity of converting on ethical, health, or compassion reasons. Beautiful, Pinky. Chinmay is also typing.
Yeah, so about making videos, I just want to share, like,
yeah,
I'm introvert, and I'm an introvert, and I'm pretty shy. Like, the last thing I want to do is to be in front of people and actually talk to them. And the last thing I want to talk to someone about is about their diet and what they're eating. But you just have to do that. And I just want to share that the first time I wanted to like hold my phone and just like record myself doing like a selfie, it just feels so stupid. I hated it so much, and I still hate it. And then you look at your face, and I'm like, I can't stand listening to my own voice. It's just not a pleasant experience at all. but you just have to do it. And after a while, you're just like, all right, this, I just have to do it again, just because. Um, just think about it. If you don't do it, then who? Right? Is it just really that inconvenient for me to do it, or is it more inconvenient for animals? And I think you had a great point that share your weaknesses, but I think that's also an opportunity to help people to do better than what we did. So something I 100% agree is, in almost every conversation I say I used to eat meat, eggs, dairy. I loved it. I didn't become vegan because I stopped liking the taste of meat. I'm not here to to talk to you about the taste. I'm not here to talk about food. I'm talking about the animals. How does that make you feel? Stuff like that, right? So finding that common ground that uh, you used to be this person and you used to think that it's really hard. It's really important. At the same time, it is true that I didn't go vegan immediately, but I think a part of that is no one, just like myself, came to like grab me and talk to me about it. And I think that if someone put it in the right way, I might have just become vegan overnight. The reason that it didn't happen is my friend didn't even tell me, watch the Minions. She didn't tell me here are all these wonderful vegan options. And it was 14 years ago, so vegan food sucked anyways. So I wasn't exposed to anything. I just had to think about this idea, and it took me 3 months to put two and two to get together. But today, if I have a conversation with someone, I don't want to tell them that this is something that you can take your time. I do actually want to tell them that this is an urgent thing. And I actually tell them this. I say, I wish someone told me that. And I'm here to tell you this today, that how many more animals do you think should die until you make the right choice, until you go vegan? Or when they say that, yeah, ideally I want to be vegan, I say, when is the right time? Just ask them that. When is the right time? Is it today? Is it next year? Is it how many more animals have to die? Or if you were in place of those animals, when do you think they would want you to go vegan? Is it today? And then they say like urgently, and you're like, yeah, thank you for being honest, and you give them some positive feedback and all that. So it is true that it took me 3 months or so to become vegetarian, but that I don't want to tell people, go ahead, take your time. There is no taking time. At least it's my job as an activist to tell you the truth, and what you do with that information is completely up to you. Unfortunately, I can't force you to go vegan right now, but I can give you that perspective. But I'm not telling you that you should be going vegan right now, but I want you to understand, to say it. I want you to say it. When is the right time to go vegan? And I think when you help people to switch that perspective, that's the best thing that we can do as activists.
Very true, very true. Some interesting answers are here. Sakshi, for 2 years, have been cooking vegan food, speaking with compassion, volunteering for Ubuntuverse. Chinmay has been vegan for 25 years and more, and has been doing activism, spreading awareness. Pratik has been vegan for 5 years, and he loves speaking school, colleges, and doing potlucks, one-on-one connection. Sudeep is maintaining Jain vegetarian diet for 1 year plus and continuing, helping animals and inspiring others to gain knowledge about veganism. And Sarika is here for 2 years. Here from activism is to do 24/7, wherever and whenever. Being active, very nice. Also, street activism, virtual status. And what of something you shared now, which I totally agree with you that there is urgency, and we cannot put that in a words that you can take your own time. But the key is, which I see in your conversation, is which most activists definitely have urgency, but to reach to the point where urgency can be passed to the other person in a way that it comes to an action rather than a block. Because yes, it's urgent, but when you put that across to them in a non-compassionate way, in a forceful way, or in some other ways which are humans psychology doesn't accept. But if your conversation has been building a beautiful bond between two hearts who all are beating for the same cause, right? And that's why we say we are pre-vegan, because everybody is compassionate as a person. It's just they know, they never got to know that compassion has this form. They had their own form given to them. So that conversation you build with them, where the urgency can be placed to them, and they say yes, they say, I understand, and I think I would like to go vegan right now, is something which is very important. Because many times I've seen activists definitely put urgency, but in the wrong way, which actually creates anti vegans also. Have you
So
had any experiences
let's
like that?
talk about that.
Yeah, to say. Yeah.
Um, so one thing is that yes, I think I. Well, let me tell you a little backstory. Um, I When I started doing activism, I used to get really angry. I would say more than now. I still get angry sometimes, but um, I think a part of that was someone would say, um, I tell them about dairy industry, and they're like, I like cheese so much. And then I start talking about, but there is vegan cheese. And then they say, but vegan cheese sucks. And then I'm like, what? But just like anything else, you have to just try different brands and blah, blah, blah. And if you're in India, probably someone would say like vegan cheese would be really expensive or some other excuse. Um, and then I would just burn inside because I'm thinking about animals and this person is talking about cheese. And so one of the easiest thing that I found that actually makes it a lot easier on me as an activist is to just tell them about what I'm actually thinking instead of talking about cheese. If I don't care about cheese, then I can actually tell them that I'm not here to talk about cheese. I'm here to talk about the animals. Um, if there was a cheese made out of, I don't know, dog milk, and it just meant that dogs had to be raped and killed or whatever, would you say the same thing? Or, whatever the argument is. So really just focusing my conversation around and centering the conversation around animals. And if they have excuses, learning that I don't have to just like go answer every excuse for 2 hours. I can center it, bring it back to animals. The other thing is, as activists, you learn to filter people. Um, to have better conversations, this is truth. You cannot change everyone, right? You cannot change everyone. So how do you filter um, people who are more open? It's like a triage, right? Like imagine there is an accident and lots of people are dying and injured, and then there is one doctor. They literally have to just take a look and say, all right, you're gonna die anyways, but I can't stop bleeding on this other patient, so I'm gonna do that, right? So it's a triage here, right? So we are very limited. We are just like very few vegans. We have to work with people we think that we can actually change. So how does that happen? I talked to someone, and I literally, there are people, I talk to them, some of them, they say, I actually always wanted to go vegan, I just thought it's expensive or whatever. Like they already are angry, like they already know that they have to go vegan. Super easy. Then you have people who say, I thought about it, but I'm just worried about protein. And then you tell them, hey, here is like information about protein. They're like, yeah, sold. Then there are people who say, no, this is, I need protein. And then you explain protein. And they say, it's also natural. Then you explain that. And then they say, it's expensive. And then they say, it's my tradition. And then I say, God said so. It's signaling that there is nothing you can tell to this person to change. And that's the time to step away and just say, indeed, it's not a bad idea necessarily to say something that sticks with this person. I don't have like a formula, but depending on the situation, I might actually say something like, thank you for stopping by. I'm here to speak to people who are open-minded. So that actually like leaves them with the idea that they're not being open-minded. The other thing is, yeah, even the best activists in the world, like Earthling Ed, I don't know, whoever, even they can't convert everyone. So there is, don't expect that if you are having a conversation, there must be something that you could say that this person will change. That's not true. There are people that no matter what you say, they're not going to change. So first of all, it's a really important skill to learn. We're not going to change everyone, so we're just going to focus on lives we can actually change. So one thing. The second thing is, some people resist at first and then they change. Remember me, when my friend held me accountable, I actually got upset at my friend, but then later changed. Making someone feel uncomfortable, it's actually good if done correctly. And I'll tell you what that is. No one is going to leave that conversation and change and go vegan if they're comfortable. If what they took from that conversation is that, I'm still comfortable with eating animals, then nothing has changed. But if they leave now having that sense of like guilt, right? You only change if you feel uncomfortable. Why would you go to the gym? Because you probably don't like the way you look. You want to gain muscles, lose weight, whatever it is. Why would you go learn a new language? Maybe your job is requiring you. It's always something that is making you uncomfortable that pushes you to change your behavior. But the trick is you have to make this person uncomfortable by having them see the conflict between their values and their actions. And so it is sort of judging people, but the judgment is not like you are a bad person, but being very honest with them that if you are telling me that you care about animals and with your actions, this is what you're supporting, I'm just here to say there is a misalignment between your actions and your values. And my favorite question is I ask people, that's why I like AV, Anonymous for the Voiceless, so much. A lot of things that I've learned is from them. The question is always centered around, when you look at the footage or what happens to animals, how does that make you feel? And everyone says bad. And then I say, what stops you from going vegan? And then I just say something like, you tell me with your values that you don't like what you're saying. It's something you said earlier. But I want you to see that as long as you have meat, eggs, dairy, then you are the person behind this, unfortunately, the same way that I used to be. But what do you call a person whose actions and values are not aligned? Now, that actually sounds like something mean, but try it when you actually are honest. And I'm not saying this because I hate this person. I didn't go to this conversation because I hated this person. I actually went to this conversation thinking that this person could be somebody like me 14 years ago. It's crazy. People actually say, yeah, you call them hypocrite. I'm like, yeah. So I actually made them call themselves hypocrite. I didn't say that. I made them consider themselves hypocrite. And then when they're honest, I say, yeah, exactly. I used to be a hypocrite too. And being vegan just means blah, blah, blah. So I also want to say that when somebody becomes uncomfortable or angry, it just doesn't necessarily mean that you did a wrong thing. Sometimes you say every right thing and someone still gets upset. That's not on you. You had one responsibility to speak up. Now you speak up. Sometimes you screwed it up. You screwed it up, and that's okay. Allow yourself to make mistakes, like anything else. Next time you're like, is there something else I could have done a little better? And then you try that. I still have conversations that turn bad. I'm like, I lost my patience. I got too angry. But over time, I, gradually start doing better and better. But even today, I probably say, for the most part, the same thing to most people. Some people get upset. Some people say, thank you for telling me this. So it's not on you. The only thing that I would judge a vegan is if they not have the courage to speak up at all. Like if you are pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and you're speaking up, I'm more concerned about that than you saying the wrong thing. I agree. There are things that if you say you can turn people off, stuff like that. But I think I made my point there.
Beautifully. Yes. And you get better and better by doing those mistakes. Without doing those mistakes, you'll not get better. So yeah, please go on, do those mistakes. Chinmay has a question. Chinmay, please introduce and ask your question.
Hi, Dr. Faraz. I'm Chinmay from Mumbai, and like I turned vegan quite early, but now not. I net 25 years plus. I'm following vegan lifestyle. Uh, two, three questions. One, okay, I agree with you. When in India, I have been doing this kind like I met my five friends, all girls from my school, and someone said I cannot leave my cheese and paneer. So I think there, if you try to, then I said, but then like uh, will as I have been posting those videos in our group, so they all know what cruelties go on in dairy industry and all of them are already vegetarians. I mean, a community where by birth most of us are vegetarians, but still they are not willing to. Like one girl has changed now. Impact is her husband has also gone vegan and she's like trying to minimize. So as you said, if I tell her you don't have time, I mean you don't have time, they will get offended. And the other one who said paneer and cheese, I can't leave. Such people we meet every day in our lives. And if you try to push it too hard, also it will be like, I try to tell them, yeah, but think about those, like it's so much of pain and suffering. Wouldn't you want it to be better, a compassionate choice? That's where I end it and leave them thinking. But I mean, what else we would do? That's one question of mine. And then second question, many a times people talk about, since you are a scientist, I want to ask you, people talk about complex protein, like you need amino acid profile for protein. I'm not from science, so I don't know much about it. I'm a commerce person. So they talk like that. So how do you explain to them that what we are eating is like vegan plant-based diet is complete? So that please throw some light on that, because that is a difficult answer which we can give. Cruelty part, yes, we can convince people, but this part is little difficult. So please explain to us, being a scientist yourself.
Sure thing. So the first one, first of all, thank you for um speaking up to your friends. Um, First thing, remember that again, you can't change everybody. That's a fact, and that includes your friends.
Yeah.
And outreaching friends and family is actually, to me, it's my personal opinion, is lower than outreaching to strangers. The reason is your friends are very limited. So if you spend 90% of your time just outreaching your friends, with that time, you might have just gotten, think about that triage, right? With that time that you just spend on 5 friends, you could have probably converted like 10 other strangers.
Yeah. Dr. Faraz, 1 minute. I mean, this is over and above what we do, like to the strangers. I
Yeah,
do it with friends also. My
yeah,
like spend whenever I get a chance, take an opportunity to tell them about veganism and make them aware about the cruelty, so that they can take an informed decision. If they want to be compassionate, it's better for everybody.
yeah. Um, so yeah, the first thing is we can't really change everyone. We have to just speak the truth. They change, they change, they don't. Sometimes that's the thing. Think about that discomfort, right? So if your friends know that, or did you say you were talking about friends or just like strangers?
currently it was friends. Strangers, yes, I mean, because we don't have a most of the times with strangers we really don't know the follow up. But known person, there are many acquaintances where I have posted these awareness videos in the groups. Later people have come and told me, because I watched that video you posted, I stopped using dairy or consuming
Yeah,
dairy.
right.
So that way
So
that impact happens.
yeah. So another thing with friends is friends and family, because we have that relationship, it often makes things more complicated than just like talking to strangers. Oftentimes friends don't want to like admit that they're gonna like learn something new from another friend because we have that dynamics. Um, so that's why I say try working on your friends and family, but spend most of your time just talking to strangers.
Yeah.
It's nonetheless good to push friends. Um, but remember, if they know that they get to be lazy, sometimes they say, yeah, I know it's bad. I don't know, it's a habit. And there is no consequence to that. They still have you as a friend, and all that. Then there is no pressure, no discomfort to change. So sometimes, like my co-founder is actually from India. So he told his dad that I will leave home if you have animal products. He knew that the dad would change because he just knew his dad, right? I don't say everyone has to do this, but you think about every card that you can play. For instance, your friends invite you to go to their house and they have cheese, and you can just like politely refuse and just say, thank you so much. The thing is, like when I see cheese, I think about all this cruelty. And now you actually respectfully rejected their invitation. Do you know how it hurts, right? Imagine if your friend said, I'm not coming to your party, but respectfully saying that. And then you can say this, you can say, I actually value your relationship a lot. Instead, why don't I invite you to my house, or happy to go out or meet you at a time that we are not eating together because I still like your relationship. So now you're just gonna blow their mind because you said that you're giving them a lot of positive thing. You're just like, I love our relationship, I love your friendship, but this is where I draw the line. I no longer sit at a table with you because not because I look down on you, but because it just really makes me uncomfortable. Now they know that there is a consequence to that. Now it's very serious, right? So that's one card that you can play. I knew that my dad said, we're gonna have a lot of vegan food for you, but my friend is asking if for us would be okay if we have like something non-vegan for other guests. I said, no, I will not come. Knowing that my dad would, so you just play whatever. In relationships, it's really important because I see a lot of vegans being like dating or being married to non-vegans. And it's like, and I know women who refuse to like have sex or like kiss their partner. They're like, you eat animals, I'm not gonna do that. So they knew that they can play that card. And so it's like whatever, you just look at, what card do you have to play and just use it. The second thing, let me, maybe I share my screen. You ask about proteins. Can you see my screen?
You can.
Yeah. So when you eat proteins are made of 20 amino acids. There are only 20 amino acids. And 9 of them are essential, meaning that you have to get them from food. The other 11, your body just makes it from these 9 or other things. So the thing is, all proteins are eventually digested into these 20 building blocks or amino acids, and your body makes its own proteins. Now, the crazy thing is, every plant, everything that has a cell, every animal cell or plant cell has all 20 amino acids. All right, I repeat that. And this is a paper, this is a scientific paper. So what am I showing you here? These are the 20 amino acids. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are the essential ones. And these are the non-essential ones, but these are the ones that you need in food. This is showing you the ratio of each amino acid in different foods. These are animal foods, and these are all plants. So what it's showing is that they all contain all amino acids. What's different is the ratio. So for instance, let's pick, I don't know, this guy here. It's methionine. Methionine is one of the essential amino acids. As you can see in egg, there is a lot of it. In legumes, there is just like smaller amounts. In some other protein sources, like what is this, quinoa, it's actually a lot, right? So the idea of complete protein is completely bullshit. What you were talking about, it's not complex, complete protein. Complete protein means that if you ate one food, it would give you every amino acid in right amounts. But that's completely stupid because no one eats just one food. It's as if like, if you ate just rice, just like if you got 2,000 calories from rice, you probably won't get one of the amino acids in enough amounts. It doesn't mean that rice doesn't have that amino acid. You may not get it in enough amounts. But no one eats just rice, right? So as long as you combine different forms of plant proteins, you're gonna get all the amino acids that you need. So the idea of complete protein is bullshit. And then the good news is some plant proteins are actually complete, including soy and quinoa. So soy has all amino acids in the right ratio. So even if somebody argues that, then you just tell them, hey, soy is a complete protein. The other thing they might say is the bioavailability. It is true that plants are a little less bioavailable, so the digestibility is slightly lower, but it's not clinically different. So as long as someone is eating enough proteins clinically, which is really what matters, there is no difference in muscle production or protein absorption.
Doctor, one more thing people always argue for young boys who are like into sports or physical activity. They say, oh, soya has that estrogen releasing quality and it will, which is not a true thing, but how to combat that answer?
It's so crazy. The molecule you're talking about is not actually estrogen, it's phytoestrogen, which is the plant version of it. All right.
Okay.
It's a plant version.
Okay.
These people now are consuming dairy with mammalian version of estrogen. Like literally, it's meant for mammals. We are mammals. Cows are mammals.
Correct.
It's literally the same thing that they're actually consuming in dairy, but then they're complaining about phytoestrogen, which is in soy. So that's completely like laughable. But on top of that, there is no like data to suggest that phytoestrogens, what are they worried about? Like man boobs?
Yeah.
Like think about it. If
eating
soy,
imbalance in their hormones and some bullshit. But yeah, I think I can combat saying that it's not estrogen, which is we mammals have impacting our hormonal imbalance, but it is phytoestrogen, which is a plant-based thing. It's not going to impact us in hormonal imbalance the way you all are projecting, right? It's a scientific fact, correct? I mean, I'm just converting what you said just now.
If that was true, every nation that consumes a lot of soy would have lots of teenagers with imbalanced hormones.
Yeah.
I think they just have mean teenagers. I mean, teenagers are mean. They're probably trying to just blame it on soy.
No,